Once, when a fisherman named Syracuse was out at sea, a young woman got caught in his nets. The stranger was unconscious, so the man, thinking she had swallowed water, gave her artificial respiration. Upon waking, the girl could not remember her name or explain to the fisherman why she was in the water far from the nearest shore. Syracuse brought the shivering guest into the cabin and said he would take her to the hospital as soon as they reached land. But for some reason, the girl was terrified and begged him not to do so. The hero then reassured her by saying he knew a place where no one would find her. He directed the boat to a bay where his mother's old house stood, where she had lived in seclusion, away from prying eyes. At home, the man carefully wrapped the stranger in a blanket and offered her a sandwich, then headed to town. He needed to pick up his daughter Annie from his ex-wife Maura and take her to a scheduled procedure at the clinic. This had long been part of his weekly duties, as the girl suffered from kidney failure. During dialysis, Syracuse, with a thoughtful look, tells his daughter a story about a fisherman who caught a mysterious woman in his nets, to which the girl declares that she must be a mermaid or a siren. After the procedure, the clinic gives her an electric wheelchair, and then the hero returns the girl to her mother and her new partner, Alex. In the morning, Syracuse visits the stranger and, on the way to the pier, tells her a little about his parents. The girl persuades the man to take her fishing with him and asks to be called Undine, which means a woman who came out of the water. At first, things were not going well, but as soon as Undine began to sing, Syracuse's traps miraculously filled with lobsters. The fisherman, amazed by such unprecedented success, throws one full trap back into the sea, saving the lobsters for a rainy day, and takes the rest for sale. He asks Undine to share the profits with him, but the girl categorically does not want to see other people and runs into the house. Pleased with the big catch, the hero buys Undine a dress as a token of gratitude, and when the seller is distracted, also steals underwear and tights. Later, he picks up Annie from school and continues his story about the fisherman and the woman's miraculous singing on the way home. Definitely a siren, the girl declares. After Syracuse leaves her at home, she decides to follow him, assuming that her father's story might be real. Unaware, Syracuse returns to Undine and presents the gift. The girl thanks him, and he asks how long she plans to stay in his house. Undine says it depends only on him, and the hero replies that she can stay as long as she wants. Syracuse gets behind the wheel and drives away, not noticing Annie watching him from hiding. On the same day, the girl takes books about sirens from the library to get as much information as possible. Meanwhile, Syracuse goes to church to confess to stealing women's clothing. Seeing the priest's bewilderment, he clarifies that the clothes were meant for the woman he pulled from the water. The next day, Annie goes alone to her grandmother's house, where she meets Undine. "More and more interesting," she says, then asks the stranger if she has magical abilities and if she can heal her. Undine avoids answering, but does not tell her that hiding is useless, since she knows she is a siren. Undine decides to play along with the girl and starts a friendly conversation. Meanwhile, Syracuse visits the library to borrow books about sirens, but finds out that his daughter has them all. Later, several children surround Annie and ask to ride the wheelchair. One girl drives the wheelchair into the water, causing it to break down. Annie has to push it to Alex for repair. Syracuse plans to go out to sea again and invites Undine to join him, noting that she is wearing the dress he gave her. At his request, the girl takes the helm but soon gets scared by a passing motorboat and hides, leaving her foot on the steering wheel. The fisherman smiles and remarks that this is not the way to steer a ship, and then the woman begins to sing. The trawler's nets quickly fill with fish, which both delights and confuses Syracuse, as he caught salmon without using special nets. Soon, a boat with 2 inspectors approaches them. The men board and inspect the vessel. Seeing the enormous amount of fish, they begin to suspect the fishermen of illegal fishing methods and look into the hold, where they are surprised to find Undine hiding. She explains to them how Syracuse caught the fish, and although the inspectors are skeptical of her explanation, they decide to leave the vessel. After they depart, the hero checks on the girls' well-being and then suggests they sell the fish together. In his opinion, Undine no longer needs to fear being seen by others, since the inspectors already did. Shortly thereafter, their boat docks at the shore. Syracuse sells the fish and plans to buy another gift for Undine with the proceeds. This time, however, the girl wants to choose it herself. In town, they meet Annie and head to a clothing store together. The news that the drunkard Syracuse pulled a girl from the sea quickly spread through the small town, and curious locals gathered at the window to gaze at the beautiful stranger. The next day, Annie visits her grandmother's house and has a pleasant conversation with Undine. She explains to Undine that this must be her siren's clothing. If she wants to stay on land for 7 years, she needs to bury it. The woman decides to do just that. Later, Syracuse and Undine sail on a boat to watch a festival. The girl tells her father everything she knows about sirens and continues to pester the woman with claims that she is one of them. Undine denies everything, and then, to test her, Annie deliberately falls into the water. Without hesitation, the heroine dives in after her and brings her back to the boat, and the girl tells her father that Undine can breathe underwater. Syracuse immediately takes his daughter to her mother, but Mora scolds him for his carelessness. Afterward, Syracuse takes Undine home and shares his sad story with her. He recounts how 2 years ago, when he and Mora were alcoholics, he decided to quit drinking. However, this initiative greatly displeased his wife, and she decided to kick him out. Undine asks why he didn't stay with Annie and learns that child services deemed it better for the girl to be with her mother. After such an open conversation, Syracuse unexpectedly kisses the girl and spends the night with her. The next day, the fisherman visits the church again to confess and tell the priest that Undine has brought him great luck. It seems he has feelings for her and is afraid of losing her. Leaving the church, Syracuse encounters a strange man who starts asking him about Undine. However, the hero does not answer and quickly gets into his car and drives away. After another procedure at the clinic, Syracuse takes Annie home. However, neither Mora nor Alex is there. Annie suggests they look for them at the bar. Meanwhile, the man who was asking about Undine during the day leaves her with them and returns to Undine. Not finding her at home, the man goes searching and soon finds the woman under a small bridge. While at the bar, Mora and Alex decide to drive home, despite Alex being heavily intoxicated. Suddenly, another car crashes into them, and Alex dies on the spot. Shortly thereafter, Syracuse and Undine drive along the same road, and noticing the accident and the familiar car, the anxious hero rushes to the ambulance where he sees the injured Annie. The girl is immediately taken to the hospital for an operation to transplant Alex's kidney, as their tissues were compatible. The accident's culprit, the same man who had been pursuing Undine, is also brought in. In the corridor, he shouts that he will find her, and then Undine initiates a conversation with him. The man notes that she is speaking to him in another language and asks her to return home. However, the heroine refuses, leaving him empty-handed. Annie recovers well from the surgery and quickly improves, and Syracuse begins to believe that Undine's wish came true. A little later, several townspeople gather at the pier to say goodbye to Alex and scatter his ashes over the water. Overwhelmed by the loss, Mora tells Syracuse that he can take custody of Annie, but with one condition: if he gets rid of that sea woman. Then Mora offers the hero a drink, and unable to resist temptation, he breaks his 2-year abstinence from alcohol. After getting thoroughly drunk, Syracuse leaves the bar at night and goes to Undine to tell her about his decision to return her to the sea. At dawn, he takes her to the lighthouse and leaves her there, assuring her that she will be safe. Noticing that he is trying to sail away without her, the girl runs to the boat, and then Syracuse says their relationship is impossible because she is not human. Late in the evening, Syracuse brings Annie to his house, and the girl asks him about Undine, to which he replies that she had to leave for some sea-related matters. Annie, however, says that she will return because she left something important in the house. The next morning, Annie was flipping through TV channels and stopped on a song that Syracuse immediately recognized. It was the same song Undine sang while fishing. Suddenly, he realizes he made a mistake and rushes back to the lighthouse as quickly as possible. It takes him a while to find her because the girl had swum to the other shore, wrapped in his jacket. Undine finally confesses that she is not a siren at all. She is a runaway convict from Romania who, along with her husband named Vladik, was smuggling illegal substances in a backpack. When their boat was surrounded by the police, he pushed her into the water, and that's when Syracuse saved her. The astonished fisherman asks for her real name and learns that she is called Joan. In the evening, they return home, where Vladik and another man are already waiting for them. He wants to get his goods back, so he gets into a fight with Syracuse. Fearing for his life, Joan decides to show the place where she hid the illegal substances, but upon digging the soil in the greenhouse, finds nothing. It turns out Annie had reburied them closer to the water, and then Joan remembers she buried them in another location, closer to the shore. Unaware of this, Vladik and his accomplice continue to threaten Joan and Syracuse. However, at that moment, the police, called by neighbors who heard the noise, arrive. Vladik and his accomplice try to escape, but are quickly apprehended. After this incident, Joan decides to stay in Ireland and start a new life with Syracuse and Annie. She is no longer afraid of her past and is ready to embrace the love and care offered by her new family. Syracuse, in turn, finds the strength to give up alcohol for good and dedicate himself to caring for his daughter and Joan. Annie, having recovered from the surgery, returns to her normal life, but now she has a complete family to support her. Joan and Syracuse settle into their home and begin planning a future together, full of hope and joy. That's the end. If you enjoyed the retelling, give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new interesting videos.